Now we go back to India, and it's my pleasure to welcome Mr. Agrawal, who is a expert in grid integration in India. India has also concrete practical experience in India, and you're not working for IRADE, but you will tell us about the experience, lessons learned from India. Mr. Agrawal.
It's visible, Stefan?
Yes. Yes, very good. Maybe just go to presentation mode.
Yeah. Good
Yes,
afternoon.
excellent.
And at the outset, I'd like to thank World Wind Energy Association for this opportunity. The RE sector in India is progressing on a fast trajectory, and the results are also visible by way of the steep increase in the RE share in India's electricity generation capacity during last 4 years. If we see that trend from the earlier level of 42 gigawatt in 2016, it is 87 gigawatt plus. So it is more than doubled. However, enhancing the share of RE in the grid has its own challenges. As everyone knows, the renewable is infirm in nature. It requires balancing by other flexible sources of generation. The capacity utilization factor is low. Say in case of wind, it is almost 1/3 of the nameplate rating. And since the capacity utilization factor is low, if we are making a dedicated transmission line to evacuate the power from the renewables, then the per unit cost is coming out to be quite high. And at the same time, when we are using the transmission lines and the generation from the renewable is not there, lines are lightly loaded, then the voltages are also going very high, and sometimes it gives the operational challenges. So these are some of the common challenges. They are known to everyone, but again, the challenges are not unique. They exist wherever we are putting the renewables. But the unique part is how to address these challenges. Each country, each system, they adopt their own mitigation measures to meet these challenges. And in next 10 to 12 minutes, what basically I'll try to cover is the experiences of Indian grid with the integration of renewables, what challenges have been faced, and how we are mitigating those challenges. That is the more important part, how we are mitigating those challenges, and what are the policy initiatives and way forward. This is what some few key numbers, and 370 gigawatt is the installed capacity, and we are meeting a peak demand of 120 gigawatt. Around 1300 terawatt hour is the annual energy what we have met, and around 87 gigawatt is the renewable capacity as we have stated. Another important part is we are connected with the other countries also, and around 4000 megawatt of power is being transacted with the neighboring countries. There is an important phenomena as far as renewable integration is concerned with this part. I'll come to that later. And we have a very strong transmission network. Now, coming to this particular diagram, basically of the transmission network, if we really see the diagram, what we can see, we have a very, very strong grid, and it is around 4000 kilometers from north to south and around 2005 kilometers from east to west. All are connected by 765 kV is the baseline, it's the main framework with 10 HVDC connections. This large grid basically gives a lot of leeway to the renewable energy for integration, because since the whole grid is synchronously interconnected, generation carried out in any part of the grid can easily transfer to the other part, and this makes the integration much easier. We come to the growth of wind capacity in India. As we can see on the right slide, if we see, there is a potential of 302 gigawatt at 100 meter hub height. And since now we have been using the wind turbines of 140 meter hub height and even 130 meter blade size dia and all those things. So the potential is still increased. It is even more than 302 gigawatt, out of which only 37 gigawatt has been exploited so far. So a lot of potential for enhancing the wind capacity exists. These are some of the concepts, I say the thrust area, which are being provided in the country for enhancing the renewable penetration in the grid. The concept of renewable purchase organization, the concept of must-earn status to the renewable energy, issue of green certificates, waiver of transmission charges and losses. These are some of the thrust areas which are being provided by the government, by the policymakers. And just to touch upon this must-earn status to the renewable energy, I'll just share, during this COVID period, there was a lockdown in India also from 25th of March. And under lockdown, we have a steep reduction in the demand. In fact, the demand reduced as high as 25%. From 160 gigawatt peak, it came to 120 gigawatt, and from 3,500 million unit per day, it came to 2,600 million unit per day. 25% of the reduction in the generation, in the demand. And in spite of all such a high steep reduction, the renewable generation was not touched by the operators. It was truly given the must-earn status, all the renewable that continued to operate at its available capacity. This is the left side gives the year-to-year growth, around 8 to 10% year-to-year growth is there. And if the right picture gives a very interesting information. Before 2015, it was mainly based on the FIT tariff mechanism, feed-in tariff mechanism. And after that, we have started going the procurement of the wind through the market mechanism. It was being procured through reverse bidding and all that. Under the market mechanism, what has been observed is the determined rates were of the order of 4.9 US cents per unit. This is the LCOE, levelized cost of energy. So it started with 4.9 cents per unit. It came down to 3.5 cents per unit, and now it has stabilized to 4 cents per unit. So basically, 4 cents per unit is a very, very competitive cost. And all these auctions were carried out in 8 tranches by the Solar Energy Corporation of India. This is the 10 gigawatt auction was carried out by SECI. Similarly, states and other utilities, they also carried out the auctions, and this type of tariff was determined, which is also giving a lot of leeways for the renewables wind to enter into the market. Now we come to the integration and mitigation part. On the left side, basically what we can see is the green energy corridor, it is called. In 2013 itself, when it was anticipated that a lot of renewable energy is going to be entered into the Indian grid, what was done was this high capacity corridors, they called highways, they were constructed, and now all those highways have been completed, and basically they cover almost the whole of the country. And with these highways, now it is very easy to connect the wind farms, large capacity wind installations with the transmission network. It is basically plug and play type of system where the transmission network is already available. You connect your wind farms or solar farms, and the electricity goes to the grid. On the right side, what you are seeing is the STATCOMs, in the transmission infrastructure. After addition of the transmission network, naturally during the initial phases when the transmission loadings are on the lower side, it gives high voltage conditions in the grid. So a large number of STATCOMs, SVCs, they were also commissioned in the grid, and then they were giving the voltage controls. So we have provided the large capacity of transmission network, the voltage control devices were commissioned, and that is how very stable grid was provided for accepting renewable into the grid. Another important part is again, these are the policy thrust and by the government and the regulators, these actions were taken. Thermal generation, basically earlier the backing down level of the thermal generation is still in our 370 gigawatt grid. Thermal has the major share of the order of around 230 gigawatts. And initially, the thermal generation, it was allowed to back down the thermal generation up to a level of 70%. But when there was a thinking that a lot of renewable has to come to the grid, now this backing down level from 70%, now it has been reduced. The regulators came up with some regulations that thermal generation can be backed down up to 55% level. Of course, because they would be losing certain efficiency and all that, some incentives they were compensated for the efficiency part. But 15% reduction in the backing down level, even if 230, if I say 100 gigawatt is the thermal capacity, so straight away I have around 15 gigawatt is the generation which is available as a balancing generation which is available. So this was one very important aspect which was taken. Then hydro generation, they were also being brought under the fast response services, and because of this hydro generation fast response services, they were also giving a lot of support to the integration of the renewable, because in case of hydro generation, what happens is during the day, you have a fixed generation targets are there, that this much of inflows are available and daily you will be able to generate so much of generation. But within the day, you can always vary that particular generation to integrate more renewables to provide the balancing, and that is how under the fast response services, this hydro generation was also put, and they were also giving a lot of support. Then another third part is blending was allowed, solar and wind. They started, the blending was done of solar also with the wind, with large wind farms. In fact, as we know, solar and wind, they have the complementary load profile. When solar and wind were combined together in a particular farm, the flattening of the output was there, the capacity utilization factor was also enhanced. So this was another aspect which was covered. And the concept of aggregators and virtual pools, that has also been brought into the market. The concept of virtual pool is there in a state, there may be a number of wind farms may be there. While doing the deviation settlement mechanism, etc., they all are considered in a virtual pool. So that provides a lot of diversity to all these plants. And that is how the deviations quantum for each individual plant was reducing. In addition to all these, the market mechanism was also made in such a way that it always helps the renewables. And the market mechanism, when I say market mechanism, the bilateral, multilateral trades, reserve regulation, ancillary services, real-time market, security constraint, economic dispatch, these are some of the main market tools, market mechanisms which are all in practice in the country. And they have been providing the requisite support to the renewable integration implicitly and explicitly. In some cases, the implicit supports are there. For instance, when I talk of reserve regulation ancillary services, some 60 to 70 gigawatt of the generation that is available at the disposal of the operator to use it in the hour when it is needed. And the costs are also clearly indicated on daily basis. For instance, in case of reserve ancillary services, the fixed cost is of the order of around 1 to 4 cents per unit, and the variable cost is of the order of 2 to 20 cents per unit. Again, they are well indicated at the start of the day itself. So whenever the operator wants, he can bring these services and provide the regulation. Similarly, real-time market, this is basically a explicit support. It has commenced from 1st June last month itself, and where the whole day has been divided into 48 blocks, and just up to 1.5 hours before also one can enter into the market. This gives a big boost to the renewable integration with the grid, because just before 2 hours the forecast is quite accurate. So by that time the wind generator can look for the forecast, and just 1.5 before, if it finds that yes, the generation level is increasing or decreasing, he can enter into the market, and that is how he can economize on the deviations. Then another part is the renewable energy management centers. We have talked of the transmission network. We have talked of the voltage control devices. This is the another third major infrastructure part, renewable energy management centers throughout the country. In the renewable rich states and regions, these renewable energy management centers have been commissioned. They are operational. They are connected with all the data devices, phasor measurement units. The real-time data is being received at all these renewable energy management centers, and they give all the advice to the wind farms as well as the regional load dispatch centers, national load dispatch centers to carry out the operations. And the another on the right side, what you are seeing is another very important aspect, that is the cross-border connections. As at the start I told that we are connected with the neighboring countries, and already around 4,000 megawatt power is being exchanged on a network of 5,000 megawatt plus capacity. In the neighboring countries, Bhutan and Nepal, they are hydro-rich countries. Lot of hydro potentials are there. India and Bangladesh, they have lot of coal, and India has lot of potential for the renewables. By integrating these countries, already they are integrated, but the connections are being more and more strong. By integrating all these, what can happen is the hydro potential at Bhutan and Nepal, that can be act as a very good balancing source for the high renewable generation in India. And that is how the integration of the renewables can be done in the best possible manner. We come to the last part of the presentation, that is the policy initiatives, framework of forecasting and scheduling of deviation settlement mechanism, market-based economic dispatch, plans towards bringing of ancillary services. These all measures are already have been taken into consideration, and with all these measures, basically again, whatever further reinforcement as far as integration is concerned, that all is going to be received in the grid. I come to the last part of the presentation, and that is the offshore wind capacity. There are plans to add the offshore wind capacity also to the grid. Already actions have been initiated for adding 1 gigawatt offshore wind capacity at Gujarat. The expression of interest has been floated. Investigations, etc., are in progress. Then there are plans to bring gigawatt range renewable energy farms with storage. In fact, for 1.2 gigawatt such farms, already the contracts have been placed, where we are integrating renewable energy along with some storage devices. It is in form of pumped hydro storage as well as in form of the battery storage. And if we look at because the order has already been placed, if we look at the cost, it has come out in the range of around 86 US dollar to 96 US dollar per megawatt hour, again, which is very, very competitive rate. Then there are plans to add 10 gigawatt of pumped hydro station as flexible generation in the grid. And the last part is what we are looking at is the one solar, one world, one grid. This is also the concept which has been floated. And with this, in the initial phase, Middle East, Southeast Asia and South Asia are being integrated. And then in the phase 2, Africa would be integrated, and this is how the system would be further enhanced. And I come to the last part of the presentation with a quote from great leader and statesman Abraham Lincoln, who about 1.5 centuries before very aptly had made this statement: as yet, the wind is an untamed and unharnessed force, and quite possibly one of the greatest discoveries hereafter will be the taming and harnessing of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That was a very, very insightful presentation from India, describing the challenges that you see. And I think it will be very interesting indeed to see, then now to hear from other countries. And I think one aspect that certainly that Chami already brought up in your introductory speech was, on which level are we aiming at integration? So I heard now some really big solutions talking about a world grid. Now we will later have also presentations speaking about more decentralized local solutions.